Hey there, Dango Stu here. Today's video is about starting to repair the deck of the trawler and is proudly sponsored by marineengine.com. There's plenty of pinholes or smaller holes in the deck of the boat, but today I'm going to start by dealing with the largest one. In this case, I'm going to be cutting out some old steel and putting in a completely new patch. The first step in this process was to remove the old temporary patches that Pete and I put on to stop water getting in the hull while I was away in the US.
Alright, let's have a look underneath, see what we're up against. So this hole's to about here. Then we've got these steering hydraulic lines and a bit of conduit. But that's okay, we'll just do a shallow cut with the grinder anyway. So I think we'll cut flush against this deck beam, flush around the engine bay coaming, right over to the other deck beam, and then out to this sort of stringer or whatever it's called. I reckon that's a good size plate to replace. Not huge, but covers all the corroded area. What I'm going to do to start with is pick a point where we pass the corrosion this way, pass the corrosion this way into good steel, and I'm going to drill a hole saw hole. Then from the edges of that hole, so we end up with a radius patch, I'm then going to do a parallel or perpendicular line here off the coaming up to the hole, and same towards the wheelhouse. Alright, I can tell we've got a bit of conduit here, so for the sake of safety I'm actually going to come further out than I need to. It's no big deal, but it saves damaging any wires. So let's come out to about here. Okay, I marked 10 centimeters off the wheelhouse here, so it's a parallel line to there. Doesn't mean the corners are square or anything, but I just think visually if there's a weld mark that'll look nicer. Drilled 3 holes in the corners, so now I've got to get the grinder, just come in around here, do these straight cuts, take that whole plate out. There was quite a lot of corrosion around the base of the engine bay coaming, so I decided the best thing was just to cut that section out entirely as well and replace it. The plan is cut this section out, hold it against, trace again from underneath. We should have the template we need. Okay, got my template in. Now I'm going to go underneath in the engine bay and trace the underside to get the full shape we need to cut. I was doing shallow cuts along here And when I swapped the Sawzall, I nicked my 2 positive feeds, unfortunately. Everything still works, but you know, come this far to leave that ratty. To make a bit of a positive out of an annoying situation, I'm actually going to take that wire, use it in lots of places, and replace them with new continuous runs of a heavier gauge. I think that was possibly a bit too light to begin with anyway, so that's the motivation I need to upgrade it. Obviously there's plenty of usable wire there still, so I'll keep it and use it for other things, but I'm going to grab 2 new full lengths and just replace them. But not till the deck's finished, so it doesn't happen again. It's got to come this way a little bit, which means we need to take a bit off this edge here. And I think it won't be too bad. A little bit of a gap here. I might mark that on the template so that when I cut the actual steel piece, I know to make it a little bit bigger. So let's do that. So from the section there where that little dash is, I'm going to add 2 millimeters out on the actual steel. Then I think we're good to go. I'm going to cut this out at home with the plasma cutter, I think, which means getting the air compressor going. So that's the next job.
In order to cut the steel now to match the template we've just made, I'm going to use the plasma cutter, which means fixing the air compressor finally. So the good news is I got the old thread out of the tank, so that's great, and I also got the new piece, which looks like this, just a bit of a double taper. What I'm going to do now is, there's no way to put this in without just sort of spinning it. It's not like one thread goes one way and the other one goes the other way, like a reverse thread on one side. That'd be awesome. I could hold them together and just rotate it and actually bring the 2 together. It doesn't work that way. So what I need to do is actually take this little regulator side off so that it's smaller, so that I can get it in and spin it without this hitting on other parts of the air compressor. Right.
What I am going to do is copy the wiring from the old one. So this is a fitting, a threaded collar and a collet for a new bit of hose. Let's have a look. Try get the old collet off. We'll put a new one on so it seals properly. But if we can't, we'll cut the hose just behind it. Yeah, I don't think we are. Alright, never mind. I think there's enough length, famous last words. Okay, collar and new collet. Whatever they're called, that little ring. Crush washer type thing. Alright. Grommet. So, what have we got? Green, brown, blue. Okay, let's swap these wires over. Oh look, even got a little king parrot coming to visit. Come on, buddy. There's loads of these around at the moment. Anyway, enough bird watching. I'm actually starting to suspect that once I've turned this way, I'm not going to be able to have the clearance I need to turn this way. So we may not be able to use that at all. But that's okay, we got the original one anyway. Alright, I've come to my senses and decided to put the fitting into the compressor first. Alright. Just reconnecting the hose that goes to the pressure switch to tell it how much pressure's in the tank. Then all I gotta do is see if I can find a hose clamp for here. Hose clamps are supposed to be round, yeah? Yeah, that's all I can find. Let's give it a shot. If it leaks, it leaks. That certainly didn't sound good. Is probably this shroud hitting pulleys, I think. Let's just take it off entirely. It's all bent the same time this got broken. It just took a big tumble in the move out of the workshop. All right, what do we need? All right. Now the completely unnecessary safety feature's been removed. Let's try again. Ooh. Is that actually just a bearing noise? Nasty. That awful metallic noise seems to be coming from the back here. It could be that the shroud for the fan here is also pushed in, so I'm going to take this one off as well. Yeah, it is bulged out here. Fingers crossed that's the noise. Much better. You didn't know it was a panel beater, did you? Okay, it's gone up a little bit past 7. Now I'm just going to back it off until I hear the pressure switch go. Oh, there we go. So that should be about right. It's leaking, so it'll drop, then I'll fire it up again and then see if it cuts off at about 7 bar. Alright, it's not coming on again, so I'm just gonna slowly crank it up a bit until it does. Obviously the method of doing it while it's off is safer, so you don't electrocute yourself. I think you're alright with a spanner though. I'm pretty sure it was knives. You're not supposed to stick into electric things. Alright, it's going too high again. I wonder if this switch is sticky. Yeah, I wonder if it actually just needs lubricating. Alright, let's see where it shuts off now. I actually think that's too high as well, so let's just another quarter turn maybe. Just monitor it this time through a few cycles. Gonna mark our template out on this bit of steel. Okay, the pen is obviously outside the template, so we really need to cut towards the inside edge. But I'm going to come in a little bit because we can always just sort of run a grinder disc along it wherever it, you know, doesn't quite fit, where it's a bit harder to weld a big gap. This is the section of my template that I had to come out. I forgot here, but I've just got to remember to come out and then cut through this outer line. And we'll sneak up this way. All right, going to clean up a section for the earth of the plasma cutter and then give it a whirl. Compressor seems to be cutting in and out around, cuts in around 6 bar, cuts out around 7 bar, which is what I want. So I can put the cover back on the switch now. Okay, ground the slag off the back and the molten steel off the back. Put a little bit of a bevel on the top side. Now I'm going to give it a brush with a wire brush, and then we're going to put some phosphoric acid on it just to treat this surface rust. Then we'll get ready to weld it in. Oh, and before you yell at me saying that's not anywhere near clean enough, this is going in, a little bit of gal primer to protect it, and then sometime in the first half of next year the entire deck is getting sandblasted to put an epoxy coating on it, so it's only temporary. The patch isn't, the patch will be permanent, but just the corrosion protection I'm doing now is only temporary. Alright, here's our patch in. So what I want to do is I want to move it towards the centre of the boat, so a bit midships, which means I need to take a little bit off here and a little bit off here. So what I'm going to do is just start marking all the areas that I want to grind. Now, I also want to move it aft a little bit. So if I take that corner off there, both sides, that'll help it come back. And then here, I think where I added this extra little nodule, take a bit off there, and then I'm going to take a bit more off the corner here too. So this is all about going midships and aft. Then once that's done, I'll put it back in, reassess, mark it, grind again. Just got to kind of sneak up on it to, you know, get it to fit as well as we can. Alright, there's my patch. It's not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it. It's the great thing about steel rather than timber. Timber's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but you know, you look at the skills that people like Leo have, and they make these beautiful, perfect joints. Steel's more forgiving, you know. I think if you're not a boat builder, which I'm not, and you're just looking to have a go, you know, people often say to me, oh, you know, you don't know what you're doing, you're hopeless. I go, yeah, that's right, I don't, exactly. And that's the point. The whole point of this channel is to show you that you can do it yourself, even if you're not an expert. But because of that, I'm finding steel much more forgiving, you know. And you can fill gaps, and when you melt metal to metal, it's pretty much as strong as it ever was. You know, you can't really just do big epoxy joins with filler putty or whatever on timber, you know, it just doesn't work so well. All right, let's fire up the welder and we'll do some tacks around various places to get it locked in. Just ground the paint off the coaming here for an earth somewhere quite close to the steel we're welding. A few days later now, it rained a bit, which is good. Came up okay. This area, I don't know if you probably noticed there, I'd cut the corner a bit short, so it just took a bit of kind of stitch welding across here. The gap was just small enough that I could stitch it across and build the metal up without needing a backing or anything, so that was great. So the bit of corrosion in the bottom of the coaming I cut out, I cut at a particular height to match this piece of flat bar I have. My plan now is to clamp this bit of flat bar to the top here and bend it round this curve. Then I'm going to cut it to the right size and we'll weld it in there. But first I'm going to try and mark the area that I want to bend. Okay, so this is where the bend has to occur. That's about the centre of the bend. I don't have an oxy torch or anything here, so for the want of something better, I'm going to stick it on the stove and just try and get some heat into it at least. Alright, I'll leave that on for a while, get it nice and hot, grab some welding gloves and see if it's enough heat to bend it. It's coming around a bit. I'm going to try to put a clamp on here. Alright, starting to get there. I guess I'll kind of crank it, let it sit, reheat it, crank it again. Alright, it's getting there. I'm going to let it sit there for a while. See if that helps it sort of take the shape as it cools instead of springing back. Alright, I'm going to leave that there to sit now and just try and take that shape over the next few days. I don't have time to finish it now anyway. I've got to get home and edit this video so I can get it uploaded today. A fair bit of the footage you're seeing in this video was filmed before the Detroit diesel turned up, but I am going to be working between the hull and the engine. Dean and I got started on that last week, and we got the flywheel on, the gearbox painted, and the damper plate on. But we pretty quickly got stuck with some missing gaskets and some bolts, other bolts that I needed. So the plan with the engine is that it's the priority. I want to have this boat moving under its own steam for a fishing trip that's planned on the 22nd of December. So that's really kind of given me a deadline to work to. But having said that, you know, I ordered some parts. David from Cutting Edges really helped me out. He always does. I always ring him and say, oh, I want this thing, I don't know what it is, it's on the exhaust and it looks a bit like Kermit's head, and he finds it for me. You know, he's really good like that, so thank you, David. But those parts will take a few days to arrive. So what we're doing is prioritising rebuilding the engine and getting it started. I'm going to start it in the workshop before dropping it in the boat. The plan now is just, it's going to turn out to be easier to get a truck with a high ab to pick the engine up from the workshop once it's started and we know it's all good, and then we'll tow Renko to a wharf near here that the truck can get right onto, then get the same truck just to drop it into the boat, and then we'll tow it back here and start aligning it and bolting it down, etc. So that way it doesn't have to go from a truck to a barge and out. It's just tow the boat, same truck, picks it up from the workshop, drops it straight into the engine bay. Once it's in, I can put the awning back on, get some shade, and we'll get cracking on getting that engine, you know, hooked up and wired up. Alright, so that's the plan. So working on the engine is a priority, working on the hull whenever I'm waiting for parts. Alright, well take care and I'll catch you soon. See ya.